Hello, everybody. It's time for Microbrew, Milwaukee Brewers chatter from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Guess who's back? Curt Hogg is joining me today. My name is JR Radcliffe, host of the show, and Curt Hogg is in Phoenix.
That's right.
Watching the Milwaukee Brewers. He's got a
That's
microphone.
Right. Yeah, that's the most
Everything's
important
planned.
thing. We got to get that. We got to talk about that from the jump here. Hopefully, the audio is better.
It is better.
We've invested. The Journal Sentinel has in actually having a microphone. I can't believe we went this long. Just not doing that. So hope you enjoy the audio a bit more. And hopefully we don't. Our takes aren't worse as the audio, as a counterbalance for the audio being better.
I mean, as somebody who's listened to a lot of podcasts, quite honestly, I don't care if the takes are good or bad anymore. If the audio is clean and it's pleasant to listen to, and we are a delight to listen to, so the takes are going to be fun.
And look at. Well, actually, I don't know about that.
You think people would turn their backs on us if our takes were poor?
No, I said that we're a delight to look at too. Listen to and
look at. No. If you guys want,
I went too far.
You did.
Gone too far.
Yeah. No, we're an abomination to look at. But if you want to do so, you can find us on YouTube now. We do post our Microbrew podcasts at the Journal Sentinel YouTube channel. Like and subscribe, please.
Yeah, no, I ran into someone at Camelback Ranch against the White Sox, a fan of the pod, friend of the pod, who said he found our show via the YouTube. So turns out,
no kidding,
the youths of America watch
we
YouTube.
Are
video is better. Pivot to video, JR. Pivot to video.
I am a 42-year-old man who is much older in spirit. Pivoting hurts my knees, and also I'm not hip with the youths no matter what. But we are there on YouTube for those who do want to partake in that part of it. And of course, we are here in your earbuds or in your car stereos right now, chatting about this Milwaukee Brewers team. And I don't know exactly where to start. It's not like there's a ton of new revelations. There is one big one. But before we get to that, I have some trivia for you, Curt Hogg. A couple really good trivia questions. One you know the answer to, and one you may not. Now, I did run a trivia game this weekend for a friend of mine. Shout out Allie, who turned 40. I started with this question. This was my opening trivia question. Do you know, Curt, by population, the largest U.S. state capital in the United States? Which state capital has the largest population?
By population?
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Okay, go to the next one while I think about this.
I will,
because I know the answer to that one. So pontificate. Do your
while you're thinking about it.
I'm going to think.
So here's one that's a little more baseball centric in a way. I'm watching the Oscars as we record this on Sunday night, and you in the Milwaukee, have rubbed shoulders presumably with someone in the Milwaukee Brewers clubhouse who has appeared in a movie that was nominated for Best Picture. It was nominated, I think 2014, so basically almost a decade ago. Somebody in the Brewers clubhouse has appeared in a Best Picture movie, and we've talked about this, so I know you know the answer, but I'm going to leave that there for the listeners a little carrot to listen deeper into the podcast, because some people may know the answer. I don't know. It's a little bit of a hidden nugget, but it's kind of cool. It is someone people know. It isn't like the third string video coordinator or something who used to work in Hollywood. It's somebody that people know. So I'm going to leave that one out there for a little bit. Have you come up though with the answer to the state capital question?
Well, my first question, this is embarrassing. I'm embarrassed to ask it.
Yeah.
Is Atlanta the capital of Georgia?
Yes, but Curt, I want you to look out the window to your left, because outside of that window is the city of Phoenix. And that's the question.
Phoenix, look, as any good trivia player, no, it's not even any trivia player, any human being knows, when you ask a question like that and I'm in Phoenix, my mind is going to assume, oh, you're asking it because I'm going to think it's Phoenix, but it's not.
Why would I ask this question otherwise, unless we're talking about baseball in some lightly adjacent way?
I thought you were trying to gotcha me, and you did gotcha me.
That's right.
You did a reverse gotcha. Phoenix
hid it in plain sight.
The state capitol building here, by the way, very not it.
Modest, weird.
I still am. We're probably maybe a mile from it. And I could see it from our last overlook in our last apartment last year. I didn't realize it was the Capitol until for about 10 days. I was looking at it every night. Had no idea.
I wonder if there's a proportional relationship between the impressiveness of a Capitol building and the size of it. Is the Montpelier, Vermont Capitol building just incredible because 7,500 people live in Montpelier, Vermont, and they got to like show that thing off? Whereas, Phoenix has mountains and desert and baseball, and it's like the 5th largest city in the United States. Maybe they're like the Capitol thing. That's like 30th on our list of things that we care about. Maybe that's what's happening there.
Phoenix should not be the capital of Arizona. It just it just doesn't feel right. Like it feels like it should be Tucson I think Tucson is very capital-y. Yeah, very capital.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Like
we need
Chicago,
to start the campaign. Make Tucson the capital.
Actually, no, Chicago probably should be the capital of Illinois now to think about it. Chicago's capital-y.
Endearing potentially to have small town Springfield be the capital, or there's a lot of like Kentucky. Frankfurt is right by my parents' house, and that's a tiny little like weird town that has some liquor in it. Whereas Louisville is the big ticket item, or maybe Lexington, but mostly Louisville and Kentucky. You've got a lot of states like that, so I feel like somehow we got to get the capital out of Phoenix, and I don't think Chicago should be the capital. I think we're fine. LA and New York aren't
spring training baseball. Phoenix capital spring training baseball.
6 minutes.
Only one team actually plays. Sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you, but only one team plays in Phoenix proper.
And that is
the Brewers.
The Milwaukee Brewers. 6 minutes and 25 seconds into a podcast, we are finally going to be talking about the Milwaukee Brewers themselves. And the news of the day, it is Sunday news essentially, is that Devin Williams might not be available for the start of opening day. You get a couple injuries like this every year where a key player ends up not being ready. It's always a little concerning, especially when it's a pitcher. What is the timetable? Because there's always a little bit of a ramp up, maybe not as much for a reliever, but a little bit of a ramp up. And, next thing you know, it's, May 15th and the guy's making his debut. So that would make it pretty concerning. I don't know if it's that type of injury for Devin Williams, but back issue, they're going to get a second opinion. I guess I'd just be curious. I haven't been dealing with this information very long. I don't know what really the lay of the land is here. So tell me what you're thinking about the news today that Devin Williams is possibly going to be on the shelf for a short time.
Well, we've been dealing with it for approximately the same amount of time, maybe like 5 more minutes on my end while I had to listen to Pat Murphy talk about it and then type out the tweet and then send the tweet. Brewers fans know very well back issues. While it's certainly not the worst injury that can happen, I think it's actually maybe kind of far down on the list of bad injuries. It can be a nagging injury. It can be frustrating. And so not only do the Brewers really not have a ton of information, but it's also kind of difficult to glean a lot of information based on past precedent. I mean, when Christian Yelich goes down at the back, the question is kind of like, okay, is this a 1 or 2 day thing, or should we plan for 3 weeks? Or like Ryan Braun had the same deal. So as you and I both know, you may be a bit better than me. You're a bit more north in the elderly
Geography?
Scale, south in the youth scale. Yeah. Sorry.
Thanks for that. Mm-hmm.
I didn't mean to throw a stray there, but it is fact. We can both understand that backs flare up and backs hurt. So it can be finicky. It can be finicky from day to day. So, I mean, just looking at the facts of it based off of what we were told, it does not sound to be the worst thing ever. However, there's a little bit of I don't want to say conflicting info, but based off of, normally when you hear of a guy needing to get a second opinion, right? Let's put it this way. If the guy needs to get a second opinion, usually that means the first opinion was bad. Oh, I tore my elbow. I'm going to get a second opinion to make sure I'm going to need Tommy John. Oh, I need shoulder surgery. Well, I'm going to make sure I have to get shoulder surgery and I can't just rehab this, or, things of that nature.
Yeah.
In this case, though, Devin Williams is going to get that second opinion on Wednesday in California. But the news seemed to be okay. Pat Murphy was saying that it doesn't seem like a big deal. They can progress as they need to with the injury and kind of, figure things out on a day-to-day basis moving forward. But they're just getting the second opinion just to be safe. So that's what they're saying at face value. In theory, that is absolutely what the situation is. There's just a little bit of a thought bubble popping up that's like, that's not usually what you get second opinions for. But in this case, I do think it makes some sense. Back injuries aren't something to play with. They're also a bit difficult to figure out, as we've talked about. So maybe just get a second opinion make certain that that's the case and there's not something actually happening there. But Brewers doctors don't seem to be too dismayed by the injury. So I guess that's good news.
I don't understand the Brewers pitching shape as a staff right now.
What is that's a good point. What is the shape of the Brewers pitching staff?
Yeah.
Last year was a triangle.
I don't know what's happening here. This year it's
Burns
definitely hexagon. I don't know. Are they going to be the Tampa Bay Rays? Are they going to just start throwing starters and have guys throw 4 innings at a crack? Like what's going on here?
Because I said that exact same thing today.
Nice, yeah.
And
we have not compared notes on this.
It's like 2017 all over again, where outgetters was the new phrase, and then it kind of happened, but kind of not. Like Chase Anderson, Zach Davies, Yuli Chassin, all those guys made a bunch of starts and pitched a lot of innings. And the Brewers will still have guys that make starts and pitch a lot of innings. But are they going to get kind of weird with this thing? Maybe. I mean, Pat Murphy after the game today brought up Bryce Wilson in the same sentence as Jacob Junis when talking about role and possibly starting. So I don't know. It's not like they're committing to either one as a starter, but it's not like they're certainly committing to them as a reliever either. And they're stretching everyone out. Taylor Clark went 3 innings. These guys have gone farther than Aaron Ashby. They've gone farther than DL Hall. So, I think if you look at the makeup of the staff, having 10 guys throw 100 innings or 10 guys throw 90 innings starts to make a little sense because they just don't have guys that have thrown a ton of innings in their career. Their number one is Freddie Peralta, and what's his career high? Maybe 150 something, 160 last year.
And Wade Miley, who is the presumed number 2, is not a slam dunk to start the year. Although I'm sure he believes he's going to start the year. But even if he did, he's a 6-inning guy. Dadgummit, I'm going to be ready. But he's a 6-inning guy, and after that, it is so head scratching to know what comes next. I don't think we've seen anything from Aaron Ashby to indicate that he's going to be like ready to hit the ground running necessarily.
The Aaron Ashby takes from previous episodes. Hopefully we can still get him to hit, but not looking great.
We're gonna keep those in the can and cut those highlights because there's some potential there. DL Hall, I think at this point is kind of like really high up there in the rotation, and I don't know if we know what to expect from him. Like if you said name the Brewers rotation or name the guys who will pitch the most innings this year for the Milwaukee Brewers, I legitimately, I mean, if you could do it, you could win a lot of money. I mean, I don't legitimately know if there's an obvious course of action here.
I think from like numbers 4 to 8, who's going to throw the most innings on this team? I don't know. I think Jacob Junis is one of those guys. I think he can be really good. I just don't know exactly what the role is going to be. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they hodgepodge this whole staff together for an entire season. It's really difficult to do that. If you're piggybacking guys and, you've got presumably bullpen options who are just down for multiple days, and it's tough to make a living like that, especially when their bullpen doesn't have a lot of optionable fellows. So it's puts you in a bit of a bind, but they're already in a bind because they don't have the guys to throw 180 innings. They simply do not.
Yeah, and even if you had guys with options, you need them to be good enough to be able to throw 3 innings reliably and then go down to the mine. The Robert Gasser types. Do they have the depth to do that? They have some depth, but do they have guys who can get you through the season? And like you said, the option thing is really a big deal. It's on the position side too. There's a lot of guys that have to make this team, or they'll lose them. And I think the roster flexibility is a little bit limited. So I am honestly, like to me, the more this goes on, I know they're not going to sign Blake Snell. I know it, or Jordan Montgomery, but it starts to feel like that's like. And I said the same thing about the third base job, and Matt Chapman obviously signed with the team everyone thought he would sign with, the San Francisco Giants. But like, doesn't this rotation cry out right now for that guy, for a Jordan Montgomery, for a Blake Snell? Doesn't it feel like that's
I think this answer is twofold. The rotation cries out for another arm, like established arm. The payroll does not cry out for a Blake Snell signing.
I mean, the payroll is what they want their payroll to be. It is.
Yeah, look,
It is.
I understand. I'm just saying
Yeah,
we could talk about them signing Blake Snell on this podcast. I don't think it
that's
would
just
be.
why it's not going to happen.
I think we would just be wasting seconds, precious seconds.
And we've already wasted 6 minutes and 25 at the outset of this conversation.
The whole point of this podcast is it's a waste of an hour. I'm so sorry.
Hopefully we got you to work on time without you having to think. That's the goal of this podcast.
No, you asked trivia questions.
Oh, that's right. Okay, let's give the answer. We've sufficiently waited this out. The answer to my trivia question is Jason Lane, the third base coach. Houston Astros is where he played his playing days, and in 2006 he hit a home run against the Milwaukee Brewers. Actually, fairly unremarkable home run against an unremarkable Brewers team, but it happened to be a game where they were filming scenes for the movie Boyhood, a movie starring Ethan Hawke and Patricia Arquette. It was shot over years. Very interesting film experiment. The main characters is a boy. The movie is Boyhood, and it really follows him from like 8 years old through high school essentially, and even a little past that. So you really get kind of the whole arc. They would shoot some scenes. Some years would go by. They'd shoot more scenes. The actors are legitimately aging in this movie. And there is a game where Ethan Hawke takes his son, and it is a real game at, I think it's Minute Maid Park, but it might be Enron Field at the time for all I can remember. Jason Lane hits a home run. I think it probably was. And Jason Lane hits a home run off of Matt Wise, I believe, former Brewers reliever. And that was kind of cool. It ended up making it into a movie that was nominated, in fact, for Best Picture. I believe Patricia Arquette won Best Supporting Actress for that film, if I recall. And so yeah, that I'm sure. I don't know if Jason Lane I assume he knows this, but I don't know if he cares. It was a very brief flicker of a moment, and he now, of course, is a third base coach for the Milwaukee Brewers. Has been on staff there for a couple of years, and just a little nugget, little Oscars season nugget. That hopefully people appreciate. Let's talk about what else is going on with this team. And at third base, Sal Frelick, we've kind of, I mean, this might happen. The Sal Frelick thing might actually happen, is where I'm at right now, that maybe they actually are going to give this a shot, like legitimately have him be your opening day third baseman. I'm blown away that's where we're possibly headed here, but
the context of this
is not ruling that out.
The context of this is super important to why we're discussing this. I thought it had been discussed enough. Like, I thought it was the story of camp. And then today, on a question where I just asked Pat Murphy, is there a number of outfielders you want? Do you want 4 or do you want 5? His answer was, you're not talking about Sal Frelick enough on the infield. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. My editors thought we were doing just fine. But apparently not. Apparently not. Pat Murphy, welcome to the newspaper business. You understand what kind of headlines sell.
He is fantastic for the newspaper business, by the way. Keep churning out those one-liners, Pat Murphy. Thank you for your business. Very supportive. Very supportive.
So, do you think he subscribes? Do you think he listens? No.
I don't think he listens. I don't think really anyone important listens. No offense to you, our loyal listener. I'm sure you're important in whatever field you are pursuing. And but I don't think anyone.
You're just on Brewers Twitter is all JR saying.
Yeah, you guys, we love you. We love
You're
you.
important.
I don't think any of you are important. Are important members of the Milwaukee Brewers front office. That's what I think is true, but I could be wrong. And if you, hey, shout out, obviously, let us know what you think of the pod, like and subscribe. Okay, keep going.
Anyway, we were talking about Sal Frelick, right, in third base. Yeah, so it does open up a lot of other roster construction possibilities if this thing can actually work. Now, the question is, like, how are we going to know if it's going to work or not? Sal Frelick is barely getting the ball there in minor league games, but he looks certainly passable. But I don't think there's going to be enough data other than like watching infield outfield practice that's going to give us an answer if Sal Frelick can actually play third base, in big league games at the big league level. I'm starting to think he might be able to do it. If I've watched him a little bit, watched some, some drills and talking to people around the Brewers, and they're pretty high on the kid's athleticism and, his instincts, his baseball know-how. It could work. It opens up that fifth outfield spot, because then you can you have another utility infielder. So that's probably Joey Wiemer, maybe Brewer Hicklin. That's another name that Pat Murphy threw out today. I'm still not entirely sure it is the most sensible thing when you have Joey Ortiz, unless the idea is Joey Ortiz at second. But it sure sounds like that's Bryce Terang's job to lose, and that he's not going to lose it this spring because of his defense. So that's one whole way of saying who knows. But it does open up a can of possibilities.
Joey Ortiz is going to make this team.
Joey Ortiz, I'm pretty sure is going to make this team. Yeah, I think there's a question around like Andrew Monasterio. He's not winning the job so far. He's got 3 options. Not getting a ton of vibes of confidence in his roster spot right now. Tyler Black's not going to make the team.
Right. Well, I mean,
Owen Miller has an option. He's not making the team. So that's sort of the situation they're at.
Yeah, I mean, you just said it. Andrew Monasterio might have been the third baseman all season long for, half of the season last year, but he has options and not everyone does. So, it's not like you start with Sal Frelick, especially if Joey Ortiz does make this team. It's not like you have to be married to that for the rest of your life. Maybe 5 games go by and it's like just not happening. Joey Ortiz is your third baseman going forward,
Yeah, I think those guys will all kind of determine their playing time throughout the year. I think who this pertains to the most is Joey Wiemer, who is maybe on the outs right now, depending on if Sal Frelick is legitimately your opening day third baseman or not.
Yeah, we have tried to napkin the guys who are going to make this team, just kind of scratch it out who's got roster spots. And with the lack of options, there are only so many spots up for grabs.
I've got Thiago Vieira in the mix now.
Let's go. I would love to see that.
With the Devin injury, I think that betting man, I would not expect him to be on the open day roster at this point. That's you and I know back injuries, as do you, faithful listener. Unless you're young, then you don't know any injuries.
Right. Oh man, I know so many back injuries. There was a time during
many injuries.
There was a time during COVID where I thought I'm just never gonna be comfortable again. Like I'm broken.
Not because of COVID. Not because of COVID, because of your back.
Yeah. Oh well, I mean, I thought the world was ending too, but I definitely was like the back pain was so significant. I mean, I really screwed something up, and it was like that for 6 months. And I went through PT, and it's like, well, it's better, but it's still terrible. And then one day it just wasn't. One day it was fine. And it's been fine now for 3 years. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. It's just
king,
backs, man.
You're a king. That's
I'm a king. Mm-hmm.
I'm just I'm an uplifter. I'm uplifting you and everyone listening to this. Mm-hmm. You listeners are queens/kings.
Yeah, but back problems don't ever really go away. So you never really had. No. I think the phrase goes, you've never had back problems. You always have them. Sometimes they just go into, I don't know, remission. Is that the right word? That feels disrespectful. But they do come and go. It's very odd. Who else at this point are we not talking about? We've got Gary Sanchez finally making his debut. Up until this point, I really thought he's definitely not going to start the year on the active roster, which I thought might make sense because Eric Haas has done very well in spring.
Eric Haas is who we are not talking about.
Right. You wrote very early on in your arrival midweek that the Brewers might carry 3 catchers, which again is A, dubious strategy, and B, do they have the roster spots to do this? But they didn't sign Eric Haas. He's not a nobody that they brought in here.
If Frelick can play the infield, that also opens up your 3 catcher strategy. I personally am anti 3 catchers. I just don't think it makes a whole lot of sense from a roster construction standpoint. But I do understand the desire to not lose Eric Haas. The Brewers, understandably, think they have a pretty good third catcher in Eric Haas. I mean, he was their backup catcher for most of the offseason. That was the plan. So he's not a guy they necessarily want to lose for nothing. But I also wonder, if you sneak him through, DFA him, try to sneak him through waivers at the end of camp, is someone going to pick him up on that salary to be their backup catcher? The market wasn't great for him in the offseason. He only got a split contract. So I'm under the impression that they're not going to carry 3 catchers, no matter how much lip service they might be paying. That's another thing about this, by the way, is we don't know. I don't know like how much to gauge Pat Murphy's praise meter, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
If
for
Pat
sure.
If Pat Murphy praises Eric Haas and says, "This is the guy I want on any team that I'm on," I don't know how seriously to take that, because we don't have precedent of him saying that about G-Man Choi in spring training, or saying that about Carlos Rodriguez in spring training. Like, we just don't have that. So maybe he legitimately is going to push for 3 catchers, but I'm not sold on that idea.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, is the solution to have Sanchez start on the injured list? Like, is that still something that's possible in your mind?
He had 4 at-bats on Sunday. He went up in the 9th inning, and we were all kind of like, wait, why is Gary Sanchez still? Oh, well, because
they're
he
getting
wants
him
to
up
do
to
his at-bats. So I think if he's already taking 4 at-bats on March 10th, which none of the other regulars are doing, although they have a better baseline of at-bats, he's going to be ready.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense to me.
As long as he's able to catch before then. We haven't seen it yet, but I would venture to guess it's going to happen.
Of the performances, because the numbers are not sexy in spring training, and obviously we're still.
Are we talking spring training stats?
I mean, it's frustrating to do, but we have to talk about something that
we should not, but we absolutely will.
When everyone on the team is not good statistically, I guess I'm curious if there's anything about this that jumps out, any of the spring results that have particularly caught your eye that you think could foretell something into the regular season, if it's anything at all. Maybe it's just Rhys Hoskins getting out there, hitting a couple home runs and looking healthy. I mean, that's obviously a promising thing. Maybe it's a good thing, but what has there been any takeaway that you have from what you've seen?
Bryce Wilson's innings is one of them.
This is
some stuff I wrote. This is some of the stuff I wrote about on Sunday. Robert Gasser with a little bit of a velo bump. Bryce Wilson with a little bit of a velo bump as well. I think he said he hit 97, which those acquainted with the 2023 Brewers know that Bryce Wilson did not hit 97. So I don't think he's going to sit there, but that's still, like, if he's sitting 94, 95, that's a tick up. No, none of the spring training stats matter to me. I mean, some of the bad spring training stats matter, like Andrew Monasterio hasn't hit, Blake Perkins hasn't hit. That makes me more inclined to think those guys are going to start in AAA if they are in position battles and don't earn their spot. But I don't mean to rain on the segment. I just don't have any spring training stats.
No, that's
in
fine.
my mind, and that's probably just from. This is just like a daily thing of seeing the games and seeing the stats, and all day just saying to yourself, doesn't matter. Does not matter. It's a repetitive head bashing against the wall of this game doesn't matter.
So when Yoel Payamp gives up 6 runs on 8 hits in 2 1/3 innings, or
that might matter.
Aaron Ashby's still struggling with his control.
So yeah, but I mean, like, how Aaron Ashby looks and the fact that his velocity is not all the way back and he's really relying on command, that matters. Velocity matters.
Yes.
If you give up 4 runs, it does not matter unless you're Devin Williams, and it means that you did it because your back was hurt.
Yeah.
No, I lied. I just thought of one. Jefferson Caro caught stealings. That matters. This dude threw like 6 guys already. He
is a good time. And I think so. Obviously, yes, spring doesn't matter. He's closer to the big leagues than I thought he was. I figured that we definitely had a full year of him at AAA, and we probably still do, but he is a big league catcher right now. And it's just a matter of getting maybe his bat a little bit and an opportunity, because they have 3 dudes that are going to be catching in front of him at this point. But like, he's a lot closer than I thought. He's impressive. He's impressive.
You said he's a big league catcher right now, and that's totally accurate. That made me think of another guy who I think could be a big league center fielder right now, Luis Lara. This dude,
one of the surprises of spring, or one of the impressive. Yeah,
I don't think the Brewers ended up clipping it or sending it out at all. But on Saturday's game, because none of these games are on TV, no one has any idea what's going on. But anyway,
Very weird.
He had 2 phenomenal catches. The first one was great, full sprint into left center. Thought it was a left fielder's ball. So, oh, well, here's Luis Lara leaping and running into the fence, making the play. And then he made a better play the next inning. He's a really, really good center fielder right now. It's remarkable to see, and you know you can tell he's overmatched quite a bit in some of these at bats. As I think a freshly turned 19-year-old, maybe still 18, but I think he's 19.
19, he's 19.
Playing all the time in Cactus League. It's not fully there with the bat yet. It's not Jackson Chourio.
No.
But he's been one of their better defenders, and they have a lot of good defenders.
Let's speak a little bit about Jackson Chourio because, and we could talk too about
happy birthday, Jackson Chourio.
Jackson Chourio, Monday. You are 19 years old.
No,
20.
20. You're 20.
20 years old. It's like he's not still 19 now, but no, 20 years old. Congratulations, Jackson Chourio. You did it. You made it to 20, and you have a big league contract, and you might be like one of 4 dudes across baseball starting on opening day at age 20. At this point, we've got Jackson Holiday, and you're all named Jackson. Jackson Holiday.
It's
Jackson
like the Jalen, the Jalen era of. Well, I think we're still in the Jalen era.
Can we get 2 more Jacksons to start on big? So we have a Jackson 5. I mean, how hard is that? We have to be able to pull that off. We have.
I mean, there are other Jacksons, but we need the young Jacksons. Yeah, Jackson Kowar.
They've got to be super young.
Jackson Kowar doesn't fit.
I mean, no offense, Jackson Kowar, but Jackson Job.
I could not tell you what team Jackson who?
The Tigers pitcher. Do I have the right first name? I think I do. When is he going to get to the big leagues? He's a big deal. Yeah. Okay. Jackson Job. He is 21 years old. I
like to think Job is his first name.
Job Jackson.
It's more fun that way.
That's excellent. The Tigers did just send him to the minors. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Jackson Job.
We need you, Jackson Job, and one more Jackson. If you have a friend, to bring him up, please, and we can have a Jackson 5 because that's really fun. And I was going to talk about like the prospect showcase on a week from as we're recording this on March 7th. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, but let's talk about Jackson Chourio some more because he's my favorite thing to talk about. You spoke to Christian Yelich. I think you could say this, right?
The story will have come out this morning. Unless the back end system of the Journal Sentinel was lit on fire overnight.
Okay, so that's a possibility. Let's not poo-poo that option, but still, Christian Yelich talking about what kind of pressure you face as somebody who has signed a big-time contract, and we know the story of Christian Yelich. You know, he signed that contract, and whether it's injury related or whatever, just the league catching up to him somehow or something, like, things went south for him. No secret. And now you've got a guy who's never even been to the big leagues, who's going to have all eyes on him, who's on a big league contract, an 8-year contract, not same amount of money, but certainly nothing to, to sneeze at. So
nothing to poo-poo in your words.
Yes. I use that phrase way too much. I don't like it. And I use it anyway.
It's because you have kids.
I think that's maybe true. What did you learn? What stood out from that conversation with Christian Yelich?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good conversation where Yelich fully admits, and embraces that, look, we cannot deny that there are expectations that come with signing a contract. You have you have expectations on yourself that are already high. And as a big leaguer, there are certain expectations that are just expected of everyone. But when you sign that contract, there's these outside hopes and expectations and burdens that you have to shoulder that just come with the territory. And that's the reality of the situation. But what you also learn from talking to Yelich and other people in the organization and Chourio himself is this kid seems to have like expectation repellent on him. Like he's wearing some sort of jacket, some rain jacket. And when the expectations fall from the heavens, they just kind of wipe off him. Like they hit him and he's like, okay, yeah, these are here. It is raining expectations upon my shoulders. And that's okay. I'm fine with it. I don't have to carry this on my shoulders. I'm just going to go play. And I think it's saying all the right things, but I truly think like underneath the surface, this kid is just kind of built to handle it. Now we'll see if it results in performance on the field. We'll see if he hits well. But like Garrett Mitchell says, he's got ice in his veins. He's going to be fine. And that's kind of the thinking throughout the entire organization, that you're giving him $82 million before he's played a baseball game, because not only do you think he's the real deal on the field, but you think he's going to be able to handle the pressure of that contract and live up to it and all the things that come with it, because it is real. Like, these are human beings playing the game. And even if, they admit it or don't, when you sign a contract like that, there are more expectations upon you. So you want a 20-year-old kid who's going to be able to handle that. And seems like Jackson Chourio is that guy.
I weirdly feel like there isn't necessarily an expectation for him to light things on fire right away. It's probably the youth thing playing into it, but for a team that needs offense, I don't think anyone is looking at him like the savior of the offense. There's a little bit of an unknown, a little bit. You hope obviously the long-term projection is that he is the savior, that he is a superstar, but I don't get the sense this year, like if he starts the year 0 for 15, that people are going to freak out about it. Like, oh, he's not ready. Anything like that. At least that's my sense. That's a vibes check for me. I don't know if that's true or not, but I can see him batting 8th.
There are going to be struggles. There are certainly going to be struggles. And I also think you're right. People are not looking to him as the key cog on this offense. There's Hoskins, there's Contreras, there's Yelich. There's just as many expectations like right now on Sal Frelick to figure it out on offense as Chourio. But once things start going bad, which they will do, that's when it really matters. Once doubt starts to creep in and you start to hear like, oh, this kid signed $82 million. He's hitting 100 over his last week and a half. I don't know. That's when you need the repellent. And theoretically he's got it. We'll find out one way or the other. But you cannot if you were a Jackson Chourio hater and you were trying to find like one other person in your camp, you would have a hell of a time doing that task. Like, there's just not anyone who doesn't say something like, "Oh yeah, he's just the dude. He's that guy."
It's him for sure.
He is him. Yeah.
I'm going to say that Junior Caminero, who's a hotshot 20-year-old prospect that's going to probably start with Tampa Bay this year, can be an honorary Jackson.
Jackson Caminero.
Yeah. So we're going to make him an honorary Jackson, Junior Jackson, same thing kind of, roughly. And then Jackson Jobe, when you get here, Jackson Jobe, who's older than all these other 4, we're going to have a Jackson 5. I'm very excited about this, Curt. It's going to be amazing.
What's going to be their hit? Like, what would they pick for their walk-up song?
I
all
don't
have
know.
The same one.
They have to coordinate. Absolutely. Yes.
They have to coordinate,
I don't know. ABC comes to mind as the obvious choice here, but we're gonna workshop this because it's gonna happen. We're gonna
could do Return of the Mac.
Of course.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Yes, we have checked that box. We have
not checked the other box yet.
I believe
he homered. He homered on Saturday.
I could have segued that better. Jackson Jobe in Tigers camp. I could have segued that better. I could have. But you know what? It doesn't need a segue. He's our guy, and he always will be.
This is a disgusting endeavor.
We're the worst people.
Shameless.
We are.
Castanera homered on Saturday, by the way, in case you didn't catch that.
He sure did. Castanera.
Spring training homers definitely matter.
Wes Clark's 4 spring training homers matter. You predicted weirdly that he would hit 10 this year for the Brewers. I am actually counting the spring training home runs. So if he hits 6 this year for the Milwaukee Brewers, you will absolutely have hit on that prediction.
That's still a lot of hope.
That's a lot. I was talking about this with someone.
I was talking about this with someone on Saturday. I was like, this is the prediction I made. I'm suddenly feeling really good about it if he can get like 100 at bats. He might only have 15 hits, but 10 of those bad boys will be dinghies.
Yeah. A couple other just guys that I'm curious because you wrote on Sunday a little bit about Robert Gasser and what you've seen from him, and Jacob Junis had a really good day on
Good.
Sunday.
Also
Where do
good.
those two guys fit in your mind at this point? You know, we've talked a lot about Robert Gasser. I think Jacob Junis might sneak up on some people as a pretty important contributor since
Yeah.
I
So
would kind of an under the
I
radar guy.
I oscillate on my Robert Gasser stock holdings quite frequently,
Mm,
and currently I am buying.
buying. Let's go. Slideshow
Yeah,
Bob.
like this. Which, oh, by the way, a
Mm,
nickname that was presented to him, and he was like, "Oh, that's good. That's a good one. I like it."
I
But
like that.
Bob
I
Gass,
like that he
Bob,
likes it.
but Bob Gass, as he says, like has happened organically, and Bob Gass seems to be happening quite organically. So,
Yeah.
R.I.P. Slideshow Bob. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
It's just the problem is Bob Gass implies that he throws 100 miles an hour, and he doesn't.
That's what
That's
I'm
not the thing.
saying. That's what I'm saying. The slider is the best pitch, and then the second best pitch is the cutter,
That's right.
which is
Do, do
a close relative of the slider.
do kids these days
So
even know The Simpsons though? Like, is that before Robert Gasser's time? I mean, The Simpsons is still on, I realize, but like, it's not the cultural thing it was.
when you mean kids these days, are you excluding millennials? Am I no
I
longer
don't.
in the kids these days group?
I don't think you are, Kurt. I
No.
think you've aged out emotionally, if not in actuality. I
Yeah.
think you're
Yeah.
just.
No, you're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah. I also had a Gen Z millennial conversation with Robert Gasser. He wasn't
Tell
sure
me.
what he
Tell me about
was. He wasn't sure what he was. And Aaron Ashby's like, dude, you're absolutely Gen Z. I'm like, Aaron Ashby, you're Gen
it.
Z. He's
That's
like,
true.
no, I'm not. I'm like, you're like 25. You're Gen Z. So that insight from the Brewers Clubhouse. You catch it only on the Microbrew pod. Robert Gasser. Robert Gasser looks really good. Um, you always hesitate with the spring training stuff, and I don't think he makes this team just because he's not on the 40-man yet, and they have other arms to fit in to the opening day roster. But I certainly think he's one of their 26 best players right now. If I had to
Mm,
rank them, he looks
interesting.
pretty good. But the thing with Brett Gasser also is like he can give you a real starter. We talked about the questions with these innings and how many innings in game started can these guys throw. Gasser's a 3 times through the order legitimate kind of guy because he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pitches that he can throw.
I would love to see that. I assume starter, right? We're not talking about him as a bullpen guy,
Yeah.
or
No. I mean, look, if they're going hybrid, schmybrid, he could make it work
he's
for
whatever.
sure.
Right.
Because especially like if you stack him after a right-handed pitcher and he just gets to face a bunch of lefties, yeah, that could definitely work. That would probably maximize his abilities, but I still see Robert Gasser for sure as like a classic starting pitcher.
Yeah. All right, let's circle back to the prospect showcase, then we can get out of here. But the Brewers, a few sites in the past week have released their prospect rankings. The Brewers, as you might expect, are very highly regarded. They're a top 5 farm system. I think I saw third was kind of the general consensus around them, third, maybe fourth in baseball. They are going to be playing in this new initiative by MLB where the best prospects in their organization take on the best prospects of another organization. In this case, it's the Royals. The Royals not as ranked as the Brewers highly, not really at all. They're bottom 3, bottom 4. But it's still a cool opportunity. It's like we talk about these guys, but they never really share a field. Spring training is the closest they get to having a lot of these guys on the same field at the same time. But here's an opportunity to do that. I don't know what to make of it. I think it'll be fun. It'll be interesting. I think it'll be like the futures game where it's just one game and we try to make more of it than it actually is, but it still could be really cool. Are you going to get a chance to see that game? What are your thoughts on that one?
I am. I believe it's the main event that day in Surprise against the Royals. My first thought is, why do they have to be playing the Royals?
I don't know. Somebody random picking
I
him out of a
could
hat?
not. I couldn't have named their top prospect. I follow prospects, and I couldn't name the Royals' top prospect. So is Bubba
Hold on, I'm
Starling
scrolling on a list.
Starling still in their system? Bobby Witt Jr.
Eric Hosmer, Will Smith. Let's go back further if we're going to do this. Bubba Starling, man.
So Asa
I don't
Lacy's
think
still around, except he's not good. I legitimately am. I think it's cool. It's a good idea. I'm legitimately bummed that the Brewers have to be facing the Royals because, no offense to the Brewers prospects, they're really good and they have a good system. But I get to see all these guys already. We've seen Chourio all spring. Seeing Mizorowski again is always a good time. But like Brock Wilkins had time in camp. Eric Brown gets he was down in Vegas, played 2 games with the team. So for me, it's kind of like get a chance to see some other players, some other cool prospects before they become things. And the Royals do not have needle movers. Like the best 8 prospects in that game are probably on the Brewers. So is it on TV?
They got
these games better be on TV. None of the games are on TV anymore. But this one,
don't-
like if they're going to make a big deal out of it, which they are, their MLB is pushing this hard. They should be broadcast, right?
I would think so, but I don't know. I haven't seen that necessarily pop up. You would think
Someone
it'd be
did
like
tweet
an
at me.
MLB.com thing, an online thing.
Someone did tweet at me to Instagram Live the game on Saturday. And for a split second, I thought about it. And then I realized the ramifications of me doing so would be mostly that I would not be in this city doing my job anymore because MLB would kick me out.
Yeah, Blake Mitchell, regarded as their number 1 prospect by MLB.com. He is like bottom, barely makes the top 100, and he's a 19-year-old rookie catcher. Who I didn't study their roster. I should have looked that up. I would imagine he's in this game, but he is, projected to be in the big leagues in like 4 years. Yeah. A lot of other guys. Their number 2 guy, Nick Lofton, profiles as a utility man, I suppose. He's 25, will be in the big leagues this year.
A 25-year-old is their number 2 prospect. See, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah, 25-year-old utility guy who I think is already in the big leagues for the most part. So, yeah, it's it's not going to be about seeing some other great prospects in this case, but someone's got to play the Royals, man. Someone does.
It'll be fun nonetheless.
It will be, of course. Anything else, Curt, before we send you away for another week of this?
I'm gonna go get some tortas.
Tortas in the largest U.S. state capital in the United States of America, Phoenix, Arizona. Sounds good, man.
And hey, if a listener wants to look this up, because I'm not gonna look it up. What's the smallest actual state capital? Like the square footage of the buildings? Look that up.
That's a really good question. I know that
we'll send you swag. We don't have swag. JR, get on that.
I know that Vermont has the smallest population, but I don't know who's got the smallest footprint. Probably Vermont. Yeah, I would have to think, just by virtue of not having that many people, but I don't know. We'll look it up. We'll bring it back to you at the next podcast, which will presumably arrive sometime next week at this time. Curt, thank you for joining me on this episode of Microbrew. We hope you enjoyed our silly little banter, and we will be in touch again next week on St. Patrick's Day, Selection Sunday. We'll be recording, I believe. So that'll be fun, and we will talk to you again very soon. Bye bye, everybody.